Hello, everybody. I'd like to start by thanking Marie and the BERA events team and the whole of BERA for actually enabling us to put on this event. If there are any technical glitches throughout, that's due to my ineptitude. Marie has been absolutely fabulous in setting this event up. I'd like to introduce Abide Zanenga from Riverside School, which he started. Abide and I first met in 2011 when we were both starting our PhD. It's been a long journey for both of us, and I am particularly impressed by the way in which Abide has set this school up at Riverside as a last chance for those who've reached the end of the road. And those students who can quite often be seen as difficult and all the behavioural management things. And I think that through using participatory action research, Abide has enabled those students to contribute, and the whole school runs on participation. And I think that's really, really impressive, and is based in good research practice, something that I'm particularly keen on. And he welcomes researchers into his school. That does not mean you're about to sort of rush into him, but on a basis of reciprocal research and reciprocal help. Because I know a lot of researchers who go into schools and then complain that the teachers haven't enacted the research, but they haven't been part of the process to start with. And the researchers have come in and disappeared and communicated with the students, but not with the staff. If there are any questions that you want to ask, please use the chat forum to do so. And do please use the tweet to communicate. And also, this event is being recorded, so it will be available later on. Okay, thank you for attending. I hope you enjoy this event. Now, over to Abide.
Thank you, Carmel. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abide Zanenga, as Carmel has said, and I'm the co-founder and head teacher of Riverside Education. I thought I should just start by giving you a background of Riverside Education as a school. When I met Carmel in 2011, we were doing our PhD. And one of the things I learned is, as a PhD student, was how difficult it was to get into schools to do my research, contact head teachers, students, gaining consent from parents and all that. You know, with the teachers and school staff generally busy with, you know, they have to teach, they have to meet certain standards. So I took it upon myself to look for funding and establish my own independent school. And I was fortunate and blessed, to some extent lucky, to be able to do that in Birmingham. It started off as a small school of 20 young people, aged 14 to 19. Now we do have over 100 young people with over 50 staff. And we have 3 sites now, and it continues to grow. But throughout my PhD journey, I came across something I had never known, which was participatory action research. And my supervisor took me through it, and I fell in love with it. And I got very interested in participatory action research. I used it in my PhD. It was a main thing, mainly because of the reflection part of it. I've always liked reflection, even in my personal life, to set up targets, look at what I'm doing right, things I can improve. So as soon as I set up Riverside Education, I decided to implement participatory action research on our curriculum, so that we could reflect on our practice. And it's been a very successful journey, which I thought I should share with yourselves and with other fellow professionals. This research is not funded by anyone. We are self-funded, and it's part of my PhD. and it's part of a paper that is under review for publication. So we decided to take part of the paper to share with you and test how it can be received out there. So it's something that we think it's a little bit different, and we thought we should share with other people what we are doing and what we want to try and do, and see how we can improve our processes, how we can improve ourselves, and probably contribute in a little way to the research world. So the birth of Riverside was aimed at creating a more inclusive environment for both staff and young people. The main aim being to make sure that our curriculum is inclusive of everybody in the school, from the teachers, the parents, the staff, ourselves, and we could only do that through participatory action research. It has become sort of a life skill. It has become a culture in the school, and probably further down as we go along in this presentation, you will see what we have benefited from it, the challenges we have had, and we can discuss further many other things we can share. Apart from all this, many people say, I've started Riverside, I've done this, it's been very successful. It's been very successful as a business financially. It's been successful in helping parents who could not find a school for young people with autism or other difficulties. But I was fortunate again and blessed enough to have friends around myself who helped me set up this school. They helped with ideas, they volunteered to come in and help when I didn't have any funding to pay the teachers. And one of these people was a young lady by the name of Hayley Felicia Tobola. She's been amazing. She's been with me throughout. So today she's with me again on this presentation. So I'm going to introduce you to Hayley, and she will tell you a bit of background story regarding Riverside. Over to you, Hayley.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Abide. So yeah, as Abide has basically kind of outlined, the whole idea behind Riverside Education was really to give children and young people the opportunity to have access to something which is very important, and that's education, and providing the environment and the setting that would be able to cater for that. So like Abide said, most of them were young people who had been excluded, mostly permanently excluded from mainstream education, and sort of no one knowing where to send them to, because sometimes even the sort of pupil referral units found them quite sort of difficult to deal with. So that the aim was to create that space. And so yeah, lots of them would struggle with non-engagement. We had young people who hadn't been to school in a year or 2 years, sometimes 3 years, hadn't actually been physically into an educational setting. Children with a lot of defiance or sort of risky behaviour. And so we aimed to just identify exactly how we could make the setting different for them, make it inclusive. And we wanted to hear from them how we could do that and give them the opportunity for something, different in life. And so that's how we opened up in 2015 with, I think, initially just 2 students, and a lot of staff like myself, very sort of eager to support that process. Thank you. So can I have the next slide? Actually, we did want to ask a question, didn't we? Yeah.
Thanks, Hayley. Still on that, probably I need to mention the issue of ethics and when you work with young people with difficult backgrounds, it's there's a danger of being seen as using them as guinea pigs in your research, and that we just want them in our school for research purposes, because the other main aim of establishing Riverside, as you will see along this presentation, is we want to be a research center and work with other researchers and help develop our education system in this country, particularly for young people who have difficulties our main clientele base is young people with autism. But when you have autism, it comes with a package, difficult behavior, non-attendance, non-engagement, medical issues, and so on. So we want to become virtually, in the future, we want to become a proper research center, working with these young people and their parents, and making sure that we provide a proper provision for them. So there's that danger that do we really want to educate them? Are we really for them, or do we want them for research purposes only? So we have to put in some safeguards and ethical issues that come with working with such vulnerable groups. So there are a few things that we did put in place, but we thought we should share this with you as an activity before we go to this. Before we go to the next slide, I thought we could ask you a question and we could discuss that together. That what else would you recommend for our school to become more of a research center apart from what's listed below? So if we can go to slide 2, please, so that you can see what we are doing in terms of safeguards and ethics. So we, as a school, we seek consent upon registration of a young person. So what happens, the registration process is very long. It can take 2 months. What we get is a young person that has been out of school for a long time, is what Felicia said, or somebody who has been permanently excluded, and in their words, I've been kicked out and I don't care. So they have to fill up a form that has risk assessments, asking about knife crimes, the crimes they've committed before, what is not worked in school. But in that form, we also do ask a person that we have to make sure that we inform them properly that we carry out a lot of research in school, and we explain the benefits of the research as well. So the parent has to agree, and the young person has to agree that upon joining us, they may take part in certain research. If a topic comes up, or if a researcher comes into our school, we inform them again that this is what we are going to do. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Since you have signed a consent form, but probably you do not agree in your child participating in this research. But one of the prerequisites in joining our school is you have to participate in our research for our curriculum every year through Participatory Action Research, where we have to look into our curriculum every year and involve everyone. So we have to seek consent upon registration. We keep both parents and students updated of the research activities going on in the school, as I said before. And we have managed so far, this is our 5th year of operation. So we've managed to establish a culture of research in the school that it's no longer something that's frowned upon by any participant. They know that everyone has to participate and has to contribute to what's happening in the school, because if they are being excluded from other schools, it could be that they hate science, they hate this subject, they hate this teacher, they don't like this, they don't like that. So what we are saying is tell us what you want. And if you're not telling us what you want, there's no way we can be able to help you. So the only way we can be able to help you is by you participating in this project and telling us exactly what you want done. And I can tell you every single year we have a new curriculum, we have new subjects coming up, we have new activities coming up, very exciting. And we have reached a point where actually annually the students are beginning to say, when are we going to do that activity again? Sometimes in a joking way that, we want a new head teacher, or we want a new science teacher, sort of in a joking way. And we work with various universities as well, and established researchers to make sure that we are meeting all the ethical guidelines and we are doing it properly. But what we, as a way of trying to help us probably, what we are looking from anyone on this platform is what else can we do to improve this apart from what we have listed, those 4 points that we have listed. Is there anything else we can do in our school that you think could improve this? So if you can help us with that, and we can discuss it further. Has anything come up? Have we had any suggestions? If nothing has come up, we can go on to slide 3, if that's okay.
Yeah. I was just going to say while we wait that obviously there is the point on consent is something that we do continuously. So we're continuously seeking that consent as a BICEP. So and that's something that we found is very useful. It doesn't necessarily mean that it gives it makes room for people to sort of withdraw or drop out. It actually just makes them aware that, you know, you're still continuously seeking their permission to be involved.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Haley, and over to you for the definitions, please.
Thank you. So PAR is basically just, you know, an approach that involves a lot of collaboration between sort of ourselves as researchers and, you know, the young people that we're looking into to improve their experience. And there are various definitions, but, you know, we're quite inclined to Jacobs' 2016 definition, which defines PAR as, you know, just a process that develops practical knowing whilst pursuing worthwhile human experiences. And that's the idea that you're really engaging those who you are researching and the participants involved in the research, keeping them quite engaged and on side and involved. And it's an approach that combines theory and practice for those who know what PAR is. You may know this as sort of basic definitions, but this is more for those who actually don't really know much about what PAR is. So yeah, it's a combination of a theory and practice and action and reflection, which takes place continuously and involves those, you know, in our case, the young people and the learners. We involve them with a view to seeking very practical solutions to some of the problems that we might identify, or areas for improvement that we might identify any concerns and issues. It has the benefits of allowing them to flourish as learners and creating a very kind of cohesive and collaborative community between ourselves and the researchers and staff in general. And I'm being very specific to the school here. So it's a very, very unique and useful research process that's very advantageous within the school setting. I'll have the next slide, because I think we'll say a little bit more about that on that slide. I think, yeah, we just wanted to point out it's a research approach that gradually became influential in sort of the 1960s, and it was aimed at addressing issues around disadvantaged members of society, used in education settings because of its inclusive nature, as you will see as we speak throughout this presentation. It is a very, very key way to promote inclusion. It underlines, you know, it's our approach will underline and show you exactly why PAR is, for us, we think, is the way to go when it comes to doing research within education, the school setting. When doing, you know, participation action research and using that method, both researchers and practitioners ourselves do a lot of collaborative working, and there's a mutual kind of involvement where we're feeding back to each other, where we're discussing, going through things together. There isn't sort of like a not saying other research approach is, but we really, especially within school, we're very conscious to take away the authoritative style and approach away from it, and make it really inclusive and hear the voice of the young people, so to speak. And there's benefits, obviously, for this. There's also sort of kind of not so great, some disadvantages, so to speak, for this, and we'll go through those. But Colin 2019 just describes PAR as a democratic and participatory orientation to knowledge creation, and that's the finest definition that we, you know, that could include everything that I've sort of gone through in all of those definitions. Thank you. We have
Thank you, Haley. I will go to the next slide if that's okay with you. So we've been doing participatory action research for the past 5 years, and we're gaining confidence every year, and we'll tell you why we are gaining more and more confidence. And it's more like, I don't want to seem like I'm campaigning for participatory action research and all that. I wish the person who came up with it could pay me for that, because it's something I'm passionate about, mainly because it encompasses, you know, the British values that we are asked to impart in our students every day, you know, particularly the values of democracy, that, you know, you have to accept other people's views, you have to take part in your community and contribute positively in your community. So we always see a school as a mini version of the community, where you find anything, you know, you find the good, the bad, and the ugly in the community. You still find them in the school as well. You find injustice and fairness, justice, fairness in the school. As according to our students, sometimes they see things as unjust. Probably doing maths every day and not doing PE every day is unjust to them. And, you know, we have to vote and we have to find ways, you know, teach them about the laws of this country and all that. But participatory action research allows them to air their views, to speak their minds without fear or favor, without intimidation. And what we have come up with, you know, this is our own school's definition of participatory action research, which is open to criticism, it is open to correction, it is open to improvement. But we have always seen it as a process of education that will make you question your values and intentions in everything you do within the classroom. I know, you know, sometimes before even Ofsted comes in, before any researcher comes in, or before any visitor comes into our school, we will have battered ourselves with criticism through reflection. We are constantly asking ourselves, are we doing enough? If we are doing good, is good enough? If we are outstanding, is outstanding enough? Do we have to do something more than outstanding? Do we have to do something more than good? And it constantly challenges you to find better ways of adapting and delivering your lessons. You never rest if you are into participatory action research. You're constantly reflecting, you're constantly finding a way of doing things better. It's only last week when I had a meeting with the senior management team, and they were saying this has been probably the most challenging year, but the most rewarding year. And next year we are coming into September. Usually we start with maybe in September, not many students will have been excluded. So we usually start with 20, 30 students. This year we are starting with 95 students already. And they were saying, this is the best year. And I did say to them, remember, you are saying it's the best year, but it's never good enough. We should have started with 200 students. Let's look at something else we could have done better. And this process is the ability to make or break a teacher due to the criticism that teachers can place upon themselves. You can either lose confidence through that with constant criticism, or, you know, you can become a better teacher. Fortunately, in our school, you know, it's just pushing us to, you know, to push boundaries, to question ourselves, to question the status quo, that even the education system itself in this country, is it what it should be? Could something better be done? And that's why we are coming to you on this platform to share our findings, to share our experiences of working with young people with autism and difficulties. What else can be done? It's because we are constantly questioning ourselves in our school. But again, we are thinking, is it good enough to question ourselves in our schools? Can we not put ourselves out there again and be questioned and question other people and share our experiences with other professionals and become sharper and probably improve the practice in our school, in our region, in our country? You never know where it will take us. But basically our own definition is that it's a process of education that will make you question your values through constant reflection. And I think, as you can see from those two individuals that are having a conversation, you know, I do agree with some of the things that they are saying in there, and I do not agree with some of them. One is saying, but if it's not participatory action research, what is it? Someone's saying, is it dictatorial? Is it not dictatorial? That's a question for another day. But what I've seen is, what I've taken from participatory action research is the reflection side of it. And it's something that I've imparted in my students, in my staff, and in my own children, in my own personal life. Even when I counsel my friends, I always say, you know, if you look back, have you actually, you know, before you start blaming anyone, have you reflected upon yourself that you could have done better? And every single day I talk about participatory action research, I discover something new. It makes me a better person every day. So that's our own definition of participatory action research. But I'm not so sure if anything has come up in slide 3, where we were asking about if we could do anything better in our safeguards and in our ethics. Has anything come back before we go on to slide 7? Is there anything that has come back?
No, I haven't seen anything, but I do want to speak to your views on the diagram at the sort of bottom right, and for the person who might read it and think, it doesn't speak to sort of it's not aimed at discrediting other research approach or approaches, but it's more about saying, highlighting the strength of PAR really, and that's understanding that it's not dictatorial. You know, it's not one of, you know, an inaction and alienating sort of participants, but it's very much about bringing them in and involving them, and that's what this advocate is about, for anyone who sort of thinks, oh, yeah.
Someone has come up with something quite interesting here. They've said that you could explore methodologies that use the voices of young people to co-create the data. That would be an empowering experience for them and could create some exciting new ideas. Really good, I like that. And another reply says a safeguarding clause that allows not sticking to confidentiality if a child is at risk. Oh yes, absolutely. I think this person has just nailed it on the head. You know, these young people, as I said before, they come up with a package, you know, that may include some serious harm that has happened to them, and you know, confidentiality is a big thing. Absolutely, totally agree, and it's something that we need. Of course, yes, we've been looking at it, but I think it's something that needs to be put in on the form and in writing. Absolutely agree. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. We do have another interactive activity as well, I think on slide 7. It says, from what you know or understand so far, would you use participatory action research in your practice? It's asking delegates that would you use it? Is it a yes? Is it a no? Do you need some more information on PAR? Is it not applicable to you? If you ask me, obviously, I would say yes, because I'm using it, I'm promoting it. It just puts me out there to be criticized and constructively, and I do not mind to be told, you know, how to do things better. So I'm finding it very easy, probably because of my position that, you know, I'm in the senior management in the school, so I've got a bit of leverage, but I'm not so sure if you're just an ordinary teacher who is as passionate as I am about developing education for these young people. If the head teacher will say yes. One of the things I have encountered during my research journey, it's really difficult to get to meet a head teacher or to get to meet people who are in positions of influence in a school. And some of them may not even be interested in research. They've probably, they last participated in research when they were doing their degrees, and they don't want to know. All they want is a league table, a good offset grade, progressing with the students, you know, in exams and all sorts. So, you know, conducting a research in a school would take out their time away from what they consider as important in their school, and rightly so. But I come from a different school. I believe that research is the cornerstone of anything and everything in the school. It can make you improve your management. It can make you improve your practice. It gives your teachers confidence. It, as you will see further down the line, there are lots of benefits in not only participatory action research, but in research generally. If teachers are to be educated more on participating in research and welcoming researchers in their schools. I remember watching a documentary, sorry to digress a little bit, you know, Haley, that I always digress, but I remember watching a documentary, a television documentary on a school that tried to stop racism. I had so much respect for the head teacher because he opened up to the researchers coming from America, coming from various universities. It's rare to see head teachers doing that. And you know, a research project can go either way. It can go horribly wrong to the extent that a researcher can come in and recommend things that a school can't do and leave all the stuff up in arms against the management that, you know, these are the findings of the research and you should be doing this, but you're not doing that. But that head teacher, I thought it was very brave of him to allow strangers without knowing even the outcome of the research as well. So it's something that I would like to see being promoted in schools and in education settings. So yeah, I guess people have voted. We can 22% need some more information. It's not applicable to 6%. That's really good. And there's been a big yes. Thank you so much. Because of my, I think it's covered up. I don't know what percentage that said yes, but 6% is not applicable and 0% said no. That shows that everyone on this platform, all the delegates are for research, and obviously because it's better, it's an institution for research. And it's something that we support, we promote, and we are passionate about. So, you know, to see such confirmation is very encouraging. We can move on to the yeah, there's been a comment there. Would you like to read it? It's clear that PAR,
it's clear that PAR plays an important role in your school, but I'm not clear how you do your research yet. Can you give us an example of what you did? I think that will definitely get answered as we go along. But if it doesn't, I definitely think please raise that question again.
Yeah, it's a question we would love to come back to. Definitely, yes, yeah. And I think slide 8, we are beginning to get into what did we do in our research. So if it's not answered, please do repeat the question again. But I think the next 3-4 slides will cover that. That's a very good question. So this is how we did it. I'm glad it's been asked because it's coincidentally. This is, yeah, exactly. So this is how we did it, or this is how we are doing it. So we move in cycles. You know, participatory action research can be in 8 cycles. You can do it in as many cycles as you want. But because we operate on 3 terms in a year, it starts in our 3rd term, not in our 1st term. So I will take you to number 3. So in our 3rd term in July, usually, June, July, that's when we sit down with the management and reflect, evaluate, and try to plan on. So we reflect on what has gone right, what has gone wrong. We evaluate. You know, we sit down with the students in the assemblies and ask them how the year has been, what things they would like to see improving next year in September. We jot notes, I think to do with methodologies and samples and all that. Haley will touch on that in the next slides, but we do reflect. So when we reflect and when we evaluate and we know that this is what we have done right, these are the areas we need to improve. I can give an example of the students who wanted a basketball sort of hoop outside the school grounds so that they can play during break and lunch times. Or they said they wanted to know more about how societies live. They were more interested in people who were coming into this country on boats. And, you know, being autistic, they wanted to know if the country is going to be overpopulated, if they will have accommodation, because they know, most of them are aware that, you know, after school, you know, when they reach 18, 19, they will have to get a flat. So they were worried that will they have accommodation with all these people flooding in the country. I'm glad I'm an immigrant myself as well, so I can relate to that, and I can speak to them freely, which I think is really good, because they can hear it from the horse's mouth, as they say. So they were talking about that, and we ended up saying, is it not a good idea that we introduce sociology in the school, so that you can understand how families work, how communities work, and why people move from one area to another, combined with history, geography, with someone who is autistic, and at the same time could be dyslexic, has been out of school for 4 years. What you want to concentrate on is maths and English. But then, when you do that, you are not building a whole person and preparing the person for, to be a socially functional human being in the society and contribute meaningfully to the community. So we ended up introducing subjects such as sociology, history, as a result of that, through reflection, evaluating, listening to student voices. So when we do that in the third term, we implement the plan in the first term. So we've done that in June, July, and in August. Right now, it's a holiday, it's a school holiday. We are not working, but I'm looking at the schemes of work. I'm looking at the curriculum. We call it the curriculum menu that we will present to Ofsted, we will present to any visitor. What do we do? So we look at our resources. Do we have the teachers? Do we have many other resources to be able to teach that? So next term, in September, we are going to implement the plan, and at the same time start monitoring it. Then in the second term, we observe again, we monitor, and we make adjustments. Probably some of the things will not be working, other things will be working. Probably we introduced sociology. It may be a very high level subject that people with autism sometimes, they have issues with imagination, understanding things in abstract. We do not know how it's going to work, but it's something that we can observe and monitor and evaluate in the second term. And then in the third term, again, we reflect and evaluate again, and then we start all over again. So it's more like a wheel, and it's a cycle, and we go on and on and on. Reflecting, implementing, observing, reflecting, implementing, observing, monitoring, reflecting, implementing. For 5 years, we've been doing that. And we are where we are now. That's why we've come back to you now, because we are seeing the benefits, and we want to share with you, as I said before. But this is exactly how we are implementing it in our school. It goes with terms: first term, second term, third term. But it starts in the third term when we reflect, evaluate, and plan for next year. I don't know if you have anything else to say, Hayley, before we go to the next slide, please.
No, that was perfect. I think we just talk about the sample in terms of the paper that we wrote up. So as you can see, we had 100 students sort of take part, 30 teaching staff, and 15 sort of teaching assistants and mentors. And obviously, as you would have, especially in sort of special education provision, sometimes numbers might change depending on personal circumstances. So where we have children who are in foster care, they get moved from one setting to another, or if they were in a temporary setting and they get moved, that can change the numbers a bit. But as we always have space in the school, so if we have new students come in, we invite them to take part. They agree, and we sort of replace sort of the one that has left. Hardly we have sort of teachers leaving as such, but similar process was used, and we did permit for people to contribute sort of halfway through. So where we're doing our kind of observations and looking to make adjustments, it was okay for new participants to contribute to that process. We recognise that the sample that we use does not include other relevant and key staff, such as drivers, for the school administrators, even cleaners, because they do interact with our young people, and they do all, sometimes have feedback. And the way that the school works is a very close-knit setting, and this is something that's embedded in our culture. So we do recognise the need to hear what feedback drivers, administrators, other key staff have to contribute to this process, and that's something that we're looking into inputting and reviewing how that could be done to give us further information. Good thing about PAR is it forces you to constantly reflect. So we're constantly recognizing ways that we can make things better. We will be asking you soon, sort of thoughts around what challenges you think we might face, and this is something that we would like to hear from you about in terms of challenges with regarding to including all key staff members in this process.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, because it's something that that's the beauty of participatory action research. I've always wanted to involve non-teaching staff, anyone who comes into the school, such as the cleaners, the drivers, the receptionists, and it's something I tried and I want to do. But participatory action research is a democratic purpose. Process. And if I lose, if I put up an idea and it's not accepted, I have to wait again next year. And it's something I have proposed as well to staff, that remember our ethos is we are a family. We do have a family ethos. So if we say it's a Riverside family, then I don't think it's appropriate that we are leaving other people outside, yet we say we are a family. And probably for the delegates, our values are based on respect, integrity, and honesty. These are not just words that we put on a wall, but we live by that. Say, for example, two students do not agree on something. We actually challenge them that, is this what we believe in this school? Or if a senior member of staff talks down on a teaching assistant or in a junior member of staff, that's disrespectful, and they are going against our values. We actually challenge them that do you think you are fitting in the school's ethos and values? If we have to respect each other, then we have to. So I believe in everyone who contributes to the school being involved in the research. How that's done, we have to work it out. But it's something that I'm fighting for. I want it done. And for the past 2 years, I've suggested it. It's not been accepted, because I want to promote democracy. I wish in my position I could do whatever I want because it's my school. But then I want people to learn that it's a democratic country. And if I'm not exercising democracy myself, then I'm not preaching what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's the beauty of our values, and the beauty of living in this country, that you just don't talk the talk, you have to walk it as well. And it's not easy, but I'm glad you've mentioned it. Probably you can elaborate in the next slide, number 10, please.
Okay. So data collection, the kind of methods that we were using for this were focus groups, questionnaires, informal interviews, debating sessions. We had contributions from assemblies as well. And it was really important that we use this, mixed method approach so that we could get in-depth data. And obviously understanding the kind of demographic we were working with. Young people have different preferences, and or even sort of in terms of ability, where some young people may not readily engage with a questionnaire. A conversation was much more appropriate, so we would use that. If there were young people who the reverse were the case, maybe during an assembly they wouldn't be inclined, they would sort of not subscribe to speaking out, then they would be more likely to provide information via other means. So we wanted to make sure that it was really inclusive, our approach to gathering data. That's why we mixed the methods, and then gathering data across the year as well. We wanted to make sure that maybe sending questionnaires home, sometimes if they don't come back, you know, we still wanted to be able to have that opportunity to hear from parents, or, you know, those who sort of were in charge of young people in foster care homes. So that's why we did that, and it really did help, you know, in terms of reducing bias as well. So sometimes you only hear what it is you might want to hear from them when they're speaking, but actually getting things on paper, or, you know, sitting in a session where other young people could give their counter ideas, was very useful as well, to making sure that the bias in the data that we were gathering was very much reduced. The approaches we used as well were very much good in terms of convenience, because we know, for those who do work in education, you have sort of 9 o'clock to 3 with young people. There's a lot already packed into the process of the day. So creating the opportunity for that data collection to occur as and when we needed to, the various approaches that we used made that happen, and we could do that during school time. For example, the assemblies, something that's part of the school, so we would just allocate, you know, specific assemblies for that, for young people to feedback, or even during sort of having focus groups during their form time or tutor time. Was very useful as well, and it really wasn't that demanding for that reason, because PAR is approach that can present as quite demanding, but these are different ways that we made sure that we didn't have that so much as an issue for us. I don't know if Abide has sort of any contributions in terms of, we regularly meet with parents and involve parents in school processes, you know, host activities that involve parents and carers coming into the school and being a part of it. So that was very sort of useful in terms of including them in that process. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yes, Haley, I'm reminded of time, so probably we are going to speed up a little bit more. I've been reminded of time, but what I wanted to touch on just quickly, and I think you've exhausted everything, is when you look at the methodology that we used, like focus groups, questionnaires, informal interviews, all these methods that we are trying to use to sort of reduce stress on our young people who sort of don't like exams and don't want anything formal. So everything has to be more as a group. They find comfort in doing anything and everything as a group. So to isolate them and start interviewing them formally, they will feel like they've been interrogated. I remember when I tried to do that, they said, "Oh, I feel like I'm in a police cell now, and you know, I don't like that, and it's claustrophobic and all sorts." So we try to ask them these questions in assemblies as a group. We do debating sessions. We can start off on something like, you know, Brexit, and then we move on to, do you think we should have animals in the school or we shouldn't? Because someone will have suggested animals. Right now, we are the only school in Birmingham that is animals in classrooms, because they like to play with the animals, you know, pet animals such as guinea pigs, rats, small snakes. They calm them down, and it was their idea, and it works really well. They are responsible for those animals. They feed them, they look after them, and it has done wonders. So we have a little activity for you as well as we move along on slide 11, where probably as we move along, can you tell us the potential challenges of implementing PAR? If
So,
that's
I
okay.
mean, we've had a few that we've come up with. Some of you might mention that, but
yeah, you can share that with us if that's okay with you, Haley.
Yeah. So we kind of identified some issues around power struggles. So where we have a lot of we have senior leadership, we have teaching staff.
I think it's on. Sorry, Haley. I think it's on slide 12. If we can have slide 12.
I think, yeah, because I think that's just for the poll. So I'm happy for that to stay up. Okay, that's brilliant. Yeah. Okay, and so that you know, there was sometimes, especially at the beginning, struggle in terms of the difference of opinion and as to what we should implement, and sort of senior staff were quite likely to be inclined to dominate those processes and want to kind of enforce decisions. But I think Abide actually did a really great job of making sure that that theme of democracy really held strong in our minds, such that it's something I don't think we would say that power struggles are a huge challenge now, even though that might occur. Definitely was time, or it can be time consuming, and it requires a lot of meetings and feedback. But I would say that having embedded it as part of culture and just everyday practice as a school, it no longer becomes or feels time consuming. It's just something that we do, and that becomes the norm. So that's something that we wanted to highlight. We also wanted to highlight the issue of, you know, sort of partisanship, which is similar to the whole idea of the power issues. And it's really not always easy to get people to see the views of others. We found having to kind of go back and forth. But here we must highlight the young people having their say and being able to even question staff, whoever staff were, or even question each other. There was a lot of example being shown there of how we can really recognize that, you know, everyone has their views, and the majority carries the vote, so to speak. And that's something, yeah, we also came across. But really wanted to highlight how important it is to hear the voice of the young people and really take into account what they're saying, and that led a lot of our conversations and a lot of the decisions we made. Another thing is PAR, you know, requires long-term commitment. So the process, you know, requires you to kind of stick to it, continuously review, implement, analyze, review, and it can be a bit of an ending cycle where you do have to determine at some point whether you've reached a point where, you know, you've got a lot of information and data to work with and want to put a pause to it, or like us, sometimes recognize how you can evolve from that. Some people are mentioning things, so parental, I'm guessing, involvement, people feeling coerced into participation.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Did you want to speak on that, Abide?
Oh yes, yeah, I totally agree with what people are, mentioning. Particularly, you know, sometimes you have to question the rigor of the research as well, and the findings through what we are doing, and people feeling coerced into participation. That's absolutely right, because you know, our form says, you know, if you want a place here, we do research. So probably some people may feel that they have no other option. If they say no, they may not be taken on, and all sorts of things. You know, you're always on your toes, it keeps you busy, you have other things to do. So I totally agree with that, definitely. And you have rightly said, you know, power issues. Sometimes I'm actually tempted just to push my own ideas through because I feel passionate about them. But you know, if you want this research to be successful, I have to be democratic. But I totally agree with what has been listed there. So yeah, we can move on to the next slide if that's okay.
Okay. I mean, having highlighted all of this, I do want to say that there are obviously benefits to this.
Oh yes, yeah. Yes, yeah. Yeah, the benefits of you know, I've said most of them anyway. That and you can add on to it. So I'll cruise them through them as quickly as possible. It's the confidence in my staff that I can see, particularly in the last Ofsted inspection. You know, the inspectors were asking, you know, why are you doing this? The staff always refer to our research that is as a result of our findings, and that's you know, professional growth, you know, staff working together. It's good for team building, and it sort of helps with our family ethos and building a sense of belonging. Totally agree that the students can see action on their idea, and professional development. I agree with all that has been listed there. Strong identification with the community. That's really good. Transformatory. I totally agree. Culture of excellency in the school, yes. Personal growth by both staff and students through self-criticism. But one of the biggest things, we were judged as requires improvement a few years back, but now we are judged as a good we are being rated as a good school with outstanding in management and leadership because of the confidence that we have gained through that. And the students were free and confident to speak to the inspectors, defend their curriculum, defend what they are doing in the school and why they are doing it. They were very articulate, which I found very interesting. The inspectors were actually taken back by, you know, when they looked at the profile of the students, that some of them were selective mute. Some of them, you know, didn't, you know, had issues with personal space, but they were eager to talk about their school, what they are learning and why they are learning it. And the inspectors actually said, you know, you can't rehearse this. You can actually tell. Number one, there is evidence of that. And number two, you can actually tell it's natural, but it's been built over 5 years of doing the same thing, that our students are coming out and, you know, talking more up. They now understand actually the value of coming to school and why they have to come to school. Before that, they actually didn't see the value of it and why they have to go to school and not just sit at home because, you know, how much they love sitting at home. Yeah, you can add on to that, Haley, if you want, but I totally agree with that, definitely.
I was just going to say that I think you touched on it earlier on, but it's just the idea that teachers have now become very introspective and reflective, and I think it's not really always the norm to hear feedback and take feedback and get told, you know, your teaching is rubbish. But actually it's gotten to the point where we're so you know, the teachers and staff are so used to feedback, and it's more seen as a positive, and I think people actively seek that feedback as well, even sort of everyday teaching classes, just wanting to know, actually, how did that go? Was that good? Can that be done better? And I think that's so useful to improving the education experience of young people. Yeah.
Yeah, if we can go on slide 15, please. Thank you. So the future, what's the future? It's we want to be a center of excellence, a center of research. We want to share our experiences of participatory action research, and we want to know more about it from the delegates and anyone interested. We want to improve our use of PAR in the school. We don't think we are using it appropriately and properly. We think there's room for improvement. That's as part of our reflection. We think participatory action research can be developed further, and we can implement it better. And as we move on to slide 16, and as we conclude, we want to know if people will be interested in using PAR within their settings again. From, you know, we've asked the same question in the beginning, now we can ask it now as well. But what we want to know is, as a result of our presentation, but and as a conclusion as well, we would like to work with as many researchers as possible in an appropriate way. So I'm inviting people who think, you know, they can work with us, number one, and those who are interested in looking at how we can develop a curriculum for young people with autism. We work with 14 to 19. You can go on our website. It's www.riversideeducation.co.uk, or we are on Facebook as well. If you look for Riverside Education on Facebook, you'll find us. You can tell us if there are any barriers. You've already mentioned them, but if you think there are any other barriers that we can discuss together, please mention them.
And I think, sorry to cut you off, just sort of in terms of if you actually think this is something that you do want to implement, what do you sort of think actually we wouldn't be able to, or this would be difficult to because of such and such? And that's what we wanted to know.
That's very true. Yeah, somebody has mentioned that they're unsure if management would be interested. It's something that I experienced, and I got frustrated. That's why I started my own school. I was just thinking, can they not see this? Can this teacher not see this, please? But I'm so grateful and blessed that you know, we have our own school now. But we are inviting people who are interested, as long as there's a condition, though, that you know, our students and the whole school can see the benefits of it. But we are happy to work with many people. Right now, we are working with 2 universities. We are working with an independent professor. Probably will be in one of the SEN magazines very soon. There's been an article on Riverside. Yes, we want to be a role model. We want to do that. There's so much pressure in doing that because now we have to maintain our outstanding in management and leadership. But it's not an easy thing to do. So we work with so many professionals around us. There's a book that has been commissioned by one organization that we are writing about Riverside and participatory action research. So we've had a bit of interest, and we are applying for grants to do more research, and hopefully we'll get more funding to do that. Right now we are just self-funded because we love to do this and we love to share. And I believe there is another way of teaching young people who are in difficulties. What that is, I want to think there's one professional out there with a brilliant idea. So delegates, I appeal to you, please do not retire with a brilliant idea. Come and share it with Riverside. We want to work with you. Yes, long-term follow-up. Yes, yeah. The long-term follow-up is there's a book coming up on Riverside. There are magazine or journal articles. We want to put ourselves out there. I've been on podcasts with the parliamentary reviews. So we want to share ourselves, what we are doing with the whole world. But then, sometimes when you think of sharing what you're doing in the whole world, you want to get it right. External evaluation of sociological account. Can you read that?
Impact, sociological impact.
Oh yes, yeah, we are interested in that as well. We are not the be-all and end-all. We are just starting. We are still at this stable door of what we want to try and do. And I think there are brilliant ideas out there. I love researchers. I love research. And once again, I call upon anyone who thinks they can work with us for the benefit of the young people, for the benefit of the school. But I would like to say thank you to everyone who has contributed. It's been amazing. And these are our references. Someone is just saying, please clarify that we do not deny people a place because they won't take part. Yes, we don't. Definitely we don't. But what we normally do is in a meeting with parents, we tell them who we are. Participatory action research is part of our DNA. It's what we are. But we have never turned anyone away. Probably Haley can clarify on that. What we normally get is parents who really want to work with us. We've never advertised ourselves. We have always we have a long waiting list, and we have always invited everyone. But that's a good question. Yeah, it's coming across as we are saying you have to participate in research to be in our school. You can clarify on that.
Yeah, I think one of the key things or benefits for Riverside in particular is that this is something that was used to build the school, was part of the foundation of the school. So it, like I said, it is part of the DNA of the school. And in all fairness, by the time people have got to Riverside, they're just looking for something that can really cater for young people that haven't found anything that can help them or support them. And it's about conversations, having those conversations and really explaining, gaining informed consent. So I don't know that we have, but from my experience, we generally across the board haven't had any sort of resistance to it, because actually it's, hey, this is your opportunity to say how you want this to be, how do you want the school to look, how, what reputation you want your school to have, and what you want it to give to you. And we find that actually young people jump on that. And to be honest, at the start, we had to create the opportunity for those who weren't very inclined to come into school to be able to have access to education and support. And we found a decrease in those sort of stay at homes and not wanting to come in because they wanted to be a part of what was going on at Riverside. So that's sort of my answer to that.
Yeah, I think we're running out of time now. We'll hand over to Carmel. I think I'm told there's been loads of questions. Hopefully we can answer them, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And really appreciated the opportunity to interact and to comment as we've gone along. So you've clearly generated interest. What we'd like to do now is there are some questions that have been asked. If we don't get to all the questions now, can I remind delegates that we have another session on the 21st of August from 4:30 till 6 p.m. It is a Friday, and I will be bringing my own glass of wine, I'm afraid. So we will use questions not only from this session, but all of the other sessions that we have as we've gone along. So we've got a question: how do you decide on your research questions and the way you collect and analyze data?
Oh yeah, that's where the bias comes in. That's a very good question, and it's a very academic question as well. That's where the bias, who decides the questions and how do you do it? When do you do that? But most of the questions are driven by the reflection in the third term, when we reflect on what has gone wrong, what has gone right, what improvements can we make, and through that, when we identify our strengths and areas of improvement, the questions naturally come out of that. So yeah, that's how we decide generally.
Okay, if we can move to the next question. Do you seek informed consent when students enroll? Do they consent to be part of your PAR from the very beginning? I think we touched on that before, but if you could briefly talk about it again.
Go on, Hayley.
Sorry, I missed the question.
It's about involving students. Yeah, how do you ensure, do you seek informed consent when students enroll, and do they consent to be part of the PAR from the very beginning? I think you have touched on this.
So, yeah, I think we answered probably already, but yes, so consent is informed. We do explain exactly what it is about, and what the benefits are, and what they'll be required to do. So we do, and it is beginning from the stages of talks about whether or not they're going to come to the school. They have a tour. They usually come in, have a tour, have a chat with the head and a few staff members. So that's when we start to have that conversation.
And I think this is something that's probably going to come out a lot as we move through with Claire's session on the 10th, and with the static presentations that are up from now. So I think that's a good one that I'd like to take forward to the 21st. How do you ensure that it's research you're doing and not evaluation of practice or change?
There's always that confusion, but I consider myself probably a little bit experienced in research. It can only come out as research over the years, and I want to think evaluation and assessment are part of the research anyway. But evaluation is the end goal of our research. It's part and parcel of it, but it's a process. So yeah, it can, if we're not careful, it can turn out to be just a general evaluation. But it's because of the methodologies that we use, the data that we analyze, that it becomes research. Unless if Hayley, you have something else to say on that?
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Can I just add in there, because I actually wrote down while you were talking that what this has shown me is a good differentiation between methodology, the PAR, and its underlying theoretical perspective philosophy, and then methods that you've used to actually collect data. So I think there is a big difference there. Okay. Yeah. Claire, if you don't mind, I'd like to move on, because we're getting short of time and you've had a few questions, to Siobhan's question. How easy would it be for school leaders, teachers without master's PhD research experience to establish PAR culture? Any tips for them?
I think it's all about the character of the leadership, if they are open to conversations about research, and if they don't feel intimidated and challenged, and seeing the value as well. Probably one tip I would give is to us to give a presentation. I attended BERA conference and this is what happened. I saw a school that's doing this, or even visit our school to share good practice. We believe in learning from one another, but it's not easy. That's why I got frustrated and ended up starting my own school. It's not an easy thing. Particularly if you do not even belong to that school. If you belong to that school and you see things are going wrong, things could be done better through research and people can benefit through research, but nobody else, particularly the leadership, can't see it, it becomes frustrating, and I totally understand that.
Okay, brilliant. If we can move to the next question. Linda, who acts as gatekeeper for the research or provides ethical supervision? Please.
Do you want to answer that, Haley? But I can, as I said before, we work with 2 universities, one professor and other established researchers. So they look at what we are doing. These are papers that are going to be published. Whatever we do gets published, and it has to go through an ethical process. But there's that danger that it's my school, I lead it, I'm doing the research, and I need someone to monitor me. And I'm always careful of that. There's actually one person, I actually pay a lot of money over the years. They visit me 3 times a year. They're a very qualified person just to look at what I'm doing as a frenemy or a friendly enemy, to check on me and what I'm doing. Because you know, in leadership is a very lonely place. When you're high up there, you're on your own, no one challenges you, and sometimes people just say yes to make you happy. But I pay someone actually to come in. He's a professor from another university, so they come in to check on me to make sure that I'm doing things the right way.
And presumably you have to, for any research, so the work that you talked about being published has had to go through that university's research ethical
Definitely,
committee.
yes, yeah. Yeah, definitely, yes, yeah.
Right, okay. Are teachers included in the suggestion process or only students? I think you have touched upon this, but if you could just...
Yeah.
Go on, Haley.
Yeah, teachers and all staff, yeah.
Is that part of when they're in the, you talked about staff meetings and in the assemblies as well as the other methods? Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm just a bit conscious of time. I'm a bit process driven. Could you include, yes, we talked about this safeguarding before, and I think that that's something that perhaps we could pick up on the 21st of August. I think that would be quite a good thing. The external evaluation, is Ofsted one of your external evaluation along with these universities?
Oh yes, yeah, we do have Ofsted, we do have the local authority as well, and we work with our schools. Some schools send their students 1 or 2 days a week to experience. We do have a farm, so they come in to work with the horses. We have 3 sites. One site is academic, the second site is vocational, where we do bricklaying and you know, all construction courses, and then a farm. So some schools just buy 2 days where they send in 10 students, but then for them to come in, they do what is called a quality assurance visit. So we do have the local authority, we do have the schools and Ofsted. So it's constant, non-stop.
Right, I'm going to pick questions that people haven't asked before. So do you include safe spaces for young people and staff? By that I mean spaces and times that they can express themselves without the pressure of research.
Yes.
Haley, you're nodding.
Yes, we do. That's generally part the nature of our school, this type of school we have. You have to have that. So we have quiet rooms and sensory rooms, and they have access to that 100%.
And I suppose part of that question is, some of the ways in which students and teachers contribute, are they anonymous? So you don't know who's made the comment?
Yeah, so where we have the questionnaires, it's particularly give that opportunity for that to happen. Obviously, where you're having face-to-face conversations and interviews, that not so much, but it's never really an approach of, oh, so yes, when we're, you know, collecting data, so and so said this, or this member of staff has said that. It's a sort of non-judgmental space.
A bit like we've done with the Slido, that we've asked the questions, but we don't know who's asked the question, you know, who's made the comments. Yep. Okay, moving quickly on. I'm just looking to see if there's a name who hasn't asked a question. Linda, I'm working on research around the impact of music in EYFS and Key Stage 1. I'm particularly interested in how you plan research with staff at Riverside.
Right, it's as I said before, it's a culture, you know, from the interviews, from the start, we are known for doing this research. So staff have to come in on board, knowing very well if they are joining Riverside, they are joining in a, almost like a research center. We participate in research, we take part in research, and it's part of the staff development. But I do lead it, and I do call meetings and direct it. That's why I do have someone checking on me and working with 2 universities. But definitely, again, you have to show some kind of wanting to participate in research. But when people hear the word research, it's so big. You think we are being experimented on and asked questions and all that. I think we have to tone it down, and so that people would understand exactly what does that research look like. And we do that at Riverside, and people would understand that it's actually part of their personal development and professional development as well.
Yep. Hayley, do you want to add anything?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. So hold on, I'm just going down the questions to find if anybody. So how do you evaluate the observation of planned lessons or planned methods? So that's more at that kind of work day-to-day approach, I suppose.
Oh yes, yeah. That's about quality assurance, and we do have someone that we call quality assurance and senior management leadership, where you do your learning walks, or you actually do, it's on the quality assurance calendar, and it's as part of our preparation for Ofsted. We walk into lessons, we observe lessons. Now Ofsted is talking about something they call deep dives, that you just walk in, you follow a student from history into maths, into English, into bricklaying and all sorts of things. Yeah. So we do that as just like any other school. PAR is something else, but we have to follow what they call independent school, ISS, independent school standards. We have to do even our curriculum, as much as we want to do anything else, we have to start by following government guidelines on independent schools, guidelines from Ofsted. Then on top of that, we have to do the PAR. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right, got a couple of minutes left for some last questions. I think that's an interesting question here. Who carries out the data analysis?
It's the maths department. As we did say, it's a combination of qualitative and quantitative research. I love qualitative research. I like writing and explaining things and all that. I'm not very good with numbers and statistics and all that, but I like to hear statistics. Say, for example, when we look at our Facebook page, how many parents are looking at our hairdressing department, and what suggestions are we getting from parents, and how many, I like to hear the numbers and all that. But I want an explanation behind the numbers. So it's a combination of different departments, and different departments play different roles. But our maths department plays a very important role, and our IT department as well, in collecting and analyzing using whatever they use, which I do not understand. As long as they give me the numbers, I'm able to explain, together with the English department, the English and literature department. Yeah. So it's quite interesting when they come together and they help each other, and see their ideas coming into a theory, or into an establishment. Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose also the universities that you work with and the researchers that you work with. Sorry, Hayley.
Yeah, I was going to mention that that's something that the universities support heavily with as well.
Yeah, mainly for publication. When we want to publish, it's always the university that leads off on all that. But for our locals, we do it on our own. But yeah, for the paper that's going to be published, yes, yeah, the university does it for us.
Okay, we've got time for 2 more questions. So do you think using a more collaborative approach could work better, as in having teachers and students collaborating towards a common goal and sharing knowledge?
That's probably a question that was asked without maybe knowing that we do involve teachers. But yeah, so staff and students are involved. And I think that by the nature of what PAR is, collaboration is highly important, crucial to the process. So definitely, yes, we do.
Yeah, I think we've spoken more and more about students and forgot the teachers. But yes, yeah, as I said, we have family. We have to involve everyone. That's why I was challenging Hayley that probably next year we need to involve all the drivers and non-teaching staff and all that. But definitely, yes, yeah. That's why Hayley was saying, sometimes teachers don't want to be told that your teaching is not good enough by the students.
But I think also the comment you made earlier about getting the departments, like the maths department, the IT department, the English department, all involved in, that's a fairly broad collaborative approach.
Yeah.
And then this last question, love the breadth of the sociology response. How do staff accommodate such ideas?
Participatory action research is very painful because you are told what you don't want to hear and what you don't want to do. But when I do employ people, I want people who are committed to the cause and the vision of the school. It's not about me, it's not about the individuals, it's about the school. So when we make decisions, I always say, is this right for me, or is this right for the school? If it's right for me and not right for the school, then it's wrong. What we do, it has to be right for the school. And when we say right for the school, it's right for the students. And we always say, that's where when we say students come first. If we are there for the students and that's what they want, we have to do it, as much as it is painful. But I absolutely, some teachers, obviously you have complaints here and there, and morning, and Haley is one of them, but or she used to be one of them. But yeah, it has to be done. We are committed to that. There are a few things that have happened that I don't like, but I have to do them.
That's the case in any school, Haley.
Yeah, just briefly to add that actually, like Abide said, because it is a culture and an ethos, it's something that's not too difficult to do. And actually having it, which is probably why a lot of people have said a potential challenge might be leadership being a barrier. But having a leader, maybe, I don't want his head to explode, but someone like Abide, who is actually very reflective. And yes, he is right. I was one of the sort of challenge him and, call him out and say, well, I don't think this is right. And this is why I think so. And we have that conversation. Having leadership that can accommodate that is really important. And that's why we're, happy for leader Riverside actually to be an example so that other, leadership can see that it works.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much indeed. I mean, it's been a really, really interesting conversation this morning. What we are going to do is we do have this event on the 21st of August, 4:30 to 6, where all the speakers will be present. We've also got next Monday, we're moving the times around, trying to accommodate people in different time zones. Our keynote, Claire Tyson, will be talking about a sort of system that she's implemented. And also we're going to be having a plenary on the 21st, but don't forget we have these other static events. Thank you everybody for participating. Thank you everybody for attending. Really appreciate it, you giving up your time this morning.